Man, sales is tough. I'm just not cut out to be a salesperson. Have you ever felt that way? Selling doesn't need to be so difficult. My name is Harry Spate. I'm here to serve and to help you succeed. Join me as we discuss sales made easy.
You have to have them in balance, right? Because both Sal and I at one time, we only had one L going. That was labor, right?
I can relate.
Oh my God, yeah. Harry, at the ripe old age of 35, I'm on a New York City subway platform stressing out because, I'm an executive board member and I've got to run down to this big meeting downtown to meet with the big muckety mucks down, and I'm stressing out, okay? 108 degrees on a New York City subway platform is disgusting, right? So this train is late, and all of a sudden I get the shooting pain down my left arm. My chest starts going nuts. The room starts spinning and I drop.
What is the good word? So today on Sales Made Easy, we've got a couple of superstars in beautiful Long Island, New York. A fellow by the name of Sal LaGreca and another one with him, Mike Mannix. These two guys are taking on the world of what I hear to be 5 L's. And we're going to dive into what these L's are and how it can change the world and make your life a whole lot better. So life, I'm liking this. So Mike Mannix, Sal LaGreca, welcome to the Sales Made Easy program. And why don't you guys tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world and what the heck this 5L stuff is?
Well, thank you for having us, Harry. We're really excited to be here. Really excited.
Well, awesome. The 5 L's, and we'll get into detail, but overview, it's really we call it the gift of a balanced life, the 5 L's. It's a pathway to personal and professional success. And it's before we jump into all 5 L's.
Yeah.
Science supported.
Yeah. So real high level, Harry, and simplistically put, the 5 L's is a science supported program that gives individuals the tools. And I think that's really important to hear, that this is tools. This is not fluff. This is all science based to navigate through stressful or difficult times in their life. And, think about the last 2 years. I think everybody's had a difficult or stressful time. And that's where the 5 L's has really taken off and has really made an impact for individuals. And Sal and I are blessed to be able to do this right now. And it's made such a tremendous impact, not just here in the US, but globally as well too.
Yeah. So this is great. So talk to me a little bit. So we're going to get into the 5 L's, but I mean, you mentioned it's science-backed, but really, what is the gist of it? And we're going to dive deep, but just so that we know what we're talking about, is this like a lifestyle? Is it just a leadership thing?
Mm-hmm.
What's your thought?
Well, it's not just a leadership thing. It's what I'd like to say, what we say is the 5 L's knows no boundaries. It's something that if you have it in your life, these 5 L's, and we'll get into them in a little more detail, in a balanced fashion, you pretty much can get through anything. And it's something that came up a long time ago, Harry, when I was admitted to the partnership at KPMG, and I was sent to Harvard by the firm, an executive leadership program, and classic Harvard case study approach to solving business issues. In a room with teams that you formed, very successful people in the room with me. And one of the classes was the psychology of success. And a professor comes in and he looks at the room and says, "How do you define success in your life?" And I'm sitting there going, "Well, that's easy. I am success, right? I just made partner in a firm I wanted to be a partner in. I've got the title and I've got the financial freedom. So I am the definition of success." And many people in the room answered the same way: title, money, power, whatever. But a few other people answered in a very different fashion, different than I had thought at the time. How about being a better person? How about being a better parent or a better partner? Those kind of things. So this professor comes back about 2 days later and says, "I'm going to throw this back to you. I heard what you said and how you would define success. And here are the things you need in your life to define success. There are 10 things." And I'm sitting there going, 10? There's no way I'm going to do 10 things. If I had these 10, I got to get it down to something that's a little bit more easy to remember. I thought I was success, and it was only 2 things, right? Money and title. This guy's kind of telling us that it's 10 things. So long story short, I worked on it and got the 10 things down to 5. And as they overlapped, a lot of the 10 overlapped. So it was easy to get them to 5. And 5 was a good number. 5 fingers, 5 toes. And then I started realizing that a lot of them were beginning with the letter L, which was really kind of cool because that's the beginning of my last name. And I made sure they all began with L. And that's what I came up with, the 5 L's. And I don't know if we want to jump into it right now, but I'll give you a real quick overview, Harry. And then
let's jump into it. I mean,
we'll talk about it.
I mean,
Well, I think it's great because it also flows into how we met too and how we started and where we're going now.
Yeah.
So
definitely want to cover that too. So
yeah, definitely. And it's a good story.
The 5 L's, what they are, how you guys met.
Well, here's an overview, of the 5 L's. The first L is love, right? Because without it, all else fails. Without love, you really don't have anything. And that could be self-love or relationship love, but love is the first L. The second L is laughter, right? Do not take yourself too seriously. You're going to fail in life. We're human, and that's okay. You got to laugh at yourself. So love, laughter. Third is labor. You realize that we are all, as humans, wired to produce, wired to work. And if you're going to do it, why not do it with purpose and do it with passion? Love, laughter, labor. The fourth is leisure. That's the 4th L, right? You got to disconnect. You got to recharge your batteries. You got to find what Mike and I call your me time, whatever that is. Could be exercising, running, reading, whatever it is, your me time. Love, laughter, labor, leisure. And the 5th L, for many, many people, Harry, is probably the most difficult L. Leave.
yeah.
Know when it's over.
Yeah.
Know when to pivot. Know when to adjust your sails and move on. And that could be anything. It could be a decision you're living with, relationship, whatever, a job, whatever it is. You got to move on. So love, laughter, labor, leisure, and leave. That's the 5 L's. Alone, they have purpose, but together, they have power. In a balanced fashion, if you have all 5 L's in a balanced way, you pretty much can get through anything in life. And that's what we're teaching, and it's changing people's lives for the better.
Yeah, I mean, this is great stuff. I mean, it is it's easier to remember that you have 5 instead of 10. I think 10 would have been real challenging for me to rattle them off. I love the fact that they're starting with L's, which is another great memory tool, and starting with love. I mean, you can start with any of them, but I mean, if you don't have that in your life, no, the rest, I mean, whether it be self-love, partners, family, you name it, I think that's, we're also wired for that. So, Mike, what's your thought on all of this?
Yeah. So I have to tell you, Harry, when and we'll talk about actually how we met, when I heard it for the first time. So just to give you a quick little background on me, while I was in executive management for 30 plus years, I've always had this passion for teaching and development. And I didn't grow up with money by any stretch of the imagination. And I've worked my tail off for everything that I have. And my father, who is a full-time pharmacist, an adjunct professor teaching paramedics, and also captain of the ambulance crew, volunteer, hence some of the money issues, right?
Yeah.
He's doing it for free, but that was my dad, all about changing lives. He would grab me and say, Mike, stop. You're running yourself into the ground. I get it, but the true measure of success is the amount of lives you touch and leave for the better. And, being the typical son, on a mission, okay, Dad. And I went on my merry way, right? I didn't listen to him at all. And I was literally killing myself to get, the nice house, the nice car, and everything that, everyone deems a success. And it wasn't until, unfortunately, 14 years ago, I was sitting with my father in a doctor's office because he had been not feeling well for about 2 months. Doctor walks in, who we knew very well, sits down next to my father, puts his hand on my father's knee, looks my father in the eye and goes, Mike, you've got stage 4 cancer. You've got 2 months left to live. And my father, being my father, looks up at him and goes, That's not happening. And
Oh,
my father, going big or going home, had a cancer that was so rare that only 5 other people have had it in the United States in the last 65 years. So, that's in a book somewhere, not the kind of book you want to be in. He's in a medical journal, but he fought it for 2 years. And in that time, Harry, obviously he couldn't practice pharmacy anymore. He just got too sick. He obviously could not ride the ambulance, but he taught to the very last day, right up until the end, even if it was from a chair. And unfortunately, when he did finally lose his battle to cancer, we held a wake for him for 4 nights. And every night, out the door and around the block, hundreds and hundreds of people he hadn't seen in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 85 to 90% of them were his students. And they all came up to me one at a time, hugged me, held me up, whatever I needed at the time. And they looked me in the eye and they're like, your dad changed my life. And that's when I knew that my father would be the most successful man I would ever meet. And that's why my passion for teaching went through the roof. So I wanted to change lives. So I started teaching at NYU. I'm an adjunct professor there. I teach leadership and management development and love it. And that's when I found, this is my passion. This is where I'm going. But I wanted to do it on a larger scale and, be able to really help people from a global perspective. And then when I met Sal and he told me about the 5 L's and I heard about the 5 L's, I was like, oh my God, that is the best support system I have ever heard. And it kind of went from there. I'll let Sal tell the story.
Yeah. I'll tell the story.
Yeah,
It's good. It was having a dinner party at the house here. I was living in Port Washington at the time. And I didn't know Mike. I met him that night at the dinner party. And I got a call Saturday night, beautiful Saturday night in July. And I got this call from somebody that worked for me that would never call me on a Saturday night. And so I felt I had to take the call. So I excused myself and went back into the house, took the call. And it was somebody that was resigning. They're quitting. They're going to leave the company. So I said to this guy, I said, listen, I can't talk right now. I got people over the house. We're entertaining some folks. Tomorrow's Sunday. I'll give you the whole day. Let's talk it through and find out what's going on. So I come back out to the deck overlooking Manhasset Bay. And Debbie, my partner, says, what? She saw my face. She goes, what happened? I go, well, Max just resigned. She goes, oh, well, that's okay. That's your last L. Like, leave. So yeah, no big deal. I'm going, really? So Mike goes, well, what is this last L thing? And I explained the 5 L's to him, just like I did to you just, a few minutes ago. And I didn't know that Mike was an adjunct professor of leadership at NYU. So he's a leadership geek.
Yeah.
And he hears the 5 L's and he's jumping up and down. This is the greatest thing I ever heard.
There could have been a little alcohol involved, but we won't go there.
No. maybe a few
maybe just a few adult
beverages were in play.
I'm relating even better.
Exactly.
So he says, this is the greatest thing. You got to write a book. I'm not going to write a book. I could read a book, but I'm not going to write a book. So that's how that started. And then that Monday, this guy shows up at my front door with these white pads.
Cut it out.
No, seriously.
True story.
He goes, what are you doing, Mike? He goes, well, we're going to write the book, right? Oh, come on in, Mike, have a drink. We'll talk about it a little bit. Next thing you know, we're working it out because he's got all that science background. And I'm going, why don't you co-author this book with me? Because, I think you're onto something. This could change people's lives for the better. And that's how it started. Crazy.
It's beautiful. So what's your thought on this, Mike? Is this a true story or is Sal making all this up?
No, he's not. Not exaggerating at all. I take full responsibility for stalking him and showing up at his front door.
It's his fault.
Yeah, it's my fault. I brought him out of retirement.
Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't.
Oh, you weren't retired at the point. That's true.
Repurposed.
Yeah. So you just took the 5 L's and said, were the 5 L's already in place, Sal, for you?
No.
Okay.
No, they existed, Harry. But it clearly wasn't something that I did anything with. And I certainly didn't even use them, I have to admit, in my own life, in my own career. I've had my ups and downs, and I wish if I took a step back and I had a reminder, maybe things would have been different if I used the 5 L's in a balanced way. I'm sure things would have been a lot better than they were,
Yeah.
but I didn't. And again, it's part of life, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have your ups and downs. And if I would have triggered it, and I got to tell you, Mike is the one that brought it to life. If I had had that, I think things would have been different. You said the same thing about your own life.
Oh my God. Well,
Yeah.
I think that's what makes us authentic, Harry,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
we're not up there preaching, be like us. Look how good we are. No, when we're teaching, because obviously we started writing the book together, but we realized the impact it could make to people, from a global perspective. So we formed Unparalleled Performance, which is our company, our training and development company. So we're actually in front of people, whether it's a keynote speech, whether it's a training or a seminar, and we're explaining what the L's are. We're giving them real tools, like real science-based tools that they can use immediately with each one of the L's. And we're explaining to them, don't make the same mistakes we did. If I had these L's 30 years ago, oh my God, my life would have been so much better. And it's not about just, as Sal said, you have to have them in balance, right? Because both Sal and I at one time, we only had one L going. That was labor, right?
I can relate.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Harry, at the ripe old age of 35, I'm on a New York City subway platform stressing out because, I'm an executive board member and I've got to run down to this big meeting downtown to meet with the big muckety mucks down. And I'm stressing out. Okay. 108 degrees on a New York City subway platform is disgusting. Right. So this train is late and all of a sudden I get the shooting pain down my left arm.
Oh boy.
My chest starts going nuts. The room starts spinning and I drop. Now, if you've ever been on a New York City subway platform in August, there's all this mystery moisture. There's wildlife running around. It's not the place you want to be on the ground, right?
No.
So I end up in the hospital. They're throwing me through the doors. They jump on my chest, rip my shirt open, slapping all the pads on me,
Just like the
running
movies.
IV. And I'm praying to myself, oh my God, do not take me now. My children are depending on me. I was a single dad at the time, raising my children on my own. My children are depending. Please, God, do not take me now. So a week later, after so many tests that I never want to talk about again because they were intrusive to say the least, the doctor comes in my room, and this idiot is laying in his bed on his work phone, answering emails in the CCU of a hospital because all I had was labor because I was going to give my kids the things I didn't have growing up, right? All that nonsense. And he looks at me and goes, and he rips the phone out of my hand. He's like, are you kidding me? Do you realize you're way too young to be in a CCU? And then he goes, and I got good news and I got bad news for you. Are you ready? And I said, and I'm like a child at this point. I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, all right, so here's the good news. You didn't have a heart attack. You had a heart event. And I'm like, well, what's the difference? He's like, well, you're lucky enough. There wasn't major damage done to the heart. You had AFib, right? So your heart just went berserk. Here's the bad news. We found out why you went into AFib. And I'm like, okay. You've got 5 ulcers, 5, and one of them is esophageal. You better change your life, Mr. Mannix.
Wow.
Right? So you want to talk about a wake-up call? And that's because I only had 1 L. I mean, Sal's had similar damage done to his life.
Yeah, you can't have any one of these, any of the L's dominate your life. That's the balance, Harry. You really need to have the balance because if you have one, whatever one, and you it dominates your life, you will fail. I had the same. I didn't have a health experience, fortunately, but I was in a situation running a multi-billion-dollar company in 130 countries, traveling over 60% of my life. I used to measure where I was on my trips, not by the cities I was in, but by the countries I was in.
Yeah, wow.
And as a result of that, my marriage failed and became an absentee dad, basically, and took a long time to get my relationship back with my son, which is the greatest relationship I have now. It's fantastic. And when I tell a story about that, I'm not going to get into all the details of running around, but there's a great little story about my granddaughter. So I got this great relationship now with my son that took me a long time to build. And it took all 5 L's working together to get this relationship back, Harry, which I have, and there's not a day goes by that I don't talk to my son now. And he's got 4 beautiful children. And my granddaughter, Juliana, we call her G, said to me one day, she was doing a puzzle, and I'm looking at her doing this puzzle, and she's doing it so easy, and it's very complicated. I said to G, let me try. So I take that and I tried it. I can't do it. And so she says to me, Grandpa, do like me do. And she does it, and I did it, and then I was able to solve the puzzle. And so I say to everyone who might be listening and who comes to our classes and seminars and trainings, don't do like me do, right? Don't do like me do. You got to have that balance. Don't let one L, in this case, labor, define you.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mike, that's awesome. And thanks. And I do agree that this brings your credibility to the fore, right? Because people don't necessarily want to be preached to.
No,
we don't
say,
do
"Hey,
that.
this is, I mean, we go to church for that.
Yeah, that's right. We get enough of
Realize
it there.
We don't measure up. And so, we then beat ourselves up and, say that we're hopeless. So
Right.
seeing, coming to a realization that you didn't have the answers. I mean, why do you think you were so driven? I'm going to start with you, Sal. Why do you think you were so driven with your career?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think it probably comes from where I grew up. I was born in the Bronx, a kid from the Bronx. My father was a butcher. First child to go to college. And I always felt that I needed to do better or be better, than my dad, which was really, sadly, as I look back, my father was my hero. Yeah. He had all 5 L's, and we talk about that in the book. Someone who was so simple, not educated man, great family man. But I always felt I had to be better than that, and I think that drove me in a certain way.
Better was what? What did better?
Better was, better. Unfortunately, better was at that time more money, a title, a position that people would go, oh, look. Wow, look who he is. Look what he does. Yeah. Not a butcher. Right. And sadly, and I can admit it now, that was a mistake. But, we learn from that, right? We're human. And we talk about this all the time in laughter, right? The second L, we talk about being positive and the ability to fail and learn from your mistake. Look at WD-40, right? WD-40, everybody knows what that product is, right? Yeah. The reason why it's WD-40, it took them 39 attempts to get it right. So you will fail. And that's okay. You'll learn from that. What do we say, Mike, but when you do fail?
So people look at failure the wrong way. And this is something that we dive deep into. And this, what's funny, Harry, is what people will learn as they're starting to read the book. And if they go through one of our trainings or seminars, it all goes back to self-love. Right. And the way you look at yourself and being your biggest cheerleader as opposed to beating yourself up. Everybody is their biggest critic. Okay. Instead of being their biggest cheerleader. And that's where we make the mistake. And when we talk about love, most people think about a relationship when they hear love. And that's the problem. It needs to be self-love first. So it's like the oxygen masks theory, right? You're in a plane, it goes into crisis, an oxygen mask drops from the ceiling. You don't put it on the person next to you. You put it on you first. And most people are like, well, no, I can't. I have all these people. No. You're better for everybody else if you take care of you first. So stop worrying about what people think. Take care of you. And it's okay to fail. And failure should be looked at as first attempt in learning. My best learning lessons have been from my biggest failures, but people are like, oh, I don't like to. Some people get themselves so twisted, they make themselves sick over the prospect of failing. Right. And that's what we teach. It's that. And that's really kind of if you jump a couple L's down to leave is really about change management and embracing change. Because what most people don't realize is we are actually wired as humans to avoid change. And, people start beating themselves up. Oh, why do I procrastinate? Back in prehistoric times, if something was dangerous or strange or new, you avoided it. You're programmed to avoid it so you don't get eaten by a saber tooth, right? So but people don't realize we still have that training. But the good news is, here's the good news. Once you realize that, there's such a thing called neuroplasticity. That means no matter how old you are, you can still learn something new, right? You can change your mindset. And you can change that once you realize it. And that's one of the things that we teach as well, too, is embracing change. Change is a good thing. It's an opportunity. It's not a negative, but most people avoid change. Most people avoid failure. Most people beat themselves up. And that's what we're trying to get people to understand is you need to embrace all this and have the right support system in your life. So love, once you have your self-love, because you can't really even love anybody else until you love yourself first. Most people don't realize that. Then it's having the right people in your life. Then it's the right support system. You got to get those energy vampires out, the folks that are just taking and not giving, right? And then it's love of what you do. So once you have that, then you move into laughter. And laughter, what people don't realize, has so many medical benefits. It's insane, Harry. Scientifically proven. Mayo Clinic reduces cortisol, which is the stress hormone, reduces blood pressure, improves your immune system. They're even finding now that it releases a chemical in the body called IFN, which is a hormone that increases your immune system that helps fight cancer. Are you kidding me? So positive attitude is also big in when we talk about laughter, right? Having that positive mentality. Positive attracts positive. They're showing studies that people actually live 15 years longer that are positive. And the folks that are negative all the time actually start to get the same biomarkers in their brain as Alzheimer's.
That's scary.
Right?
Yeah.
So stay positive. Labor is not just about work. Labor is laboring on yourself, developing you. It all goes back to that self-love. So we teach about how you labor on yourself, how you develop yourself, following your passion, your purpose, putting your priorities in order. That's another thing that a lot of people put everybody else first. They're caretakers. Biggest caretaker right here, right? I was putting everybody and everything else in front of me. I took care of everything. I made it better for everyone. Big mistake at the sacrifice of my own health and my own mental health, right? So you got to you got to labor on you. Then leisure. Most people they think of leisure as, oh, it's positive. It's so positive. Yeah. Do you take all your days off? Most people don't. You've got to recharge your batteries and
clearer minds
make better decisions. And a lot of people don't see leisure as an investment in themselves, finding their me time. I don't care if it's 10 minutes out of a day. You've got to recharge your battery. We all walk around with these stupid phones, right? If they get below 20%, they stop working well and then they die. Most people, God forbid, they let their phone die. They're always recharging their phone, but they don't recharge themselves. And that's the problem, right? And then you move into leave, which is about change management, embracing all that. And that's having all 5 L's together. And I know I kind of jumped into it, but it's really important for people to hear, because you got to have all that balance, but it all loops back and they all overlap, by the way.
To the what we do in the class.
Right. So what we do in class, Larry, and this, sorry, Harry, this is what we do. It's like love.
Harry with an L.
Harry with an L. Exactly. Larry. Love, right? Laughter, labor, leisure, leave. We do this visual, right? This is everybody's, 5 L's. I tell them then to bring their 2 hands together, right? Because the 5 L's overlap, like you're intertwining your fingers. This is all 5 L's working together. It's very strong. It's when you only have 1 or 2 is when your world falls apart. Yeah. And unfortunately, we've had that world falling apart happen way too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is great. So let's just go back to, like, one of the things. I'm going to go with labor, because you guys both worked hard, and I had this thing about, achieving, because similar to Sal, I mean, my dad, without getting into my story, but I mean, it's, it was different, but it's very similar. And it sounds like yours was similar, Mike.
Yeah.
So kids today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So what would you do different? Or, I mean, how old? I mean, I don't want to get into the age thing, but as your kids get older, Like Sal, it sounds like you're a grandfather based on what I heard. I think you said
Yes.
you're 4. So did you promote that same thing with your own kids that you said, look, you got to achieve? Because I see this um, everywhere, right? I mean, you don't have to look very long on Facebook and you see people celebrating the same stuff that you guys recognize was a problem for you,
Right. Right.
right? I mean, is that kind of part of the problem that we as parents are promoting a similar thing, even though we know it doesn't necessarily bring real happiness, right? You said the five
That's a
L's
great
do,
question.
but we don't. We focus on one
Yeah.
in general.
Mhm.
I mean, it seems like society today
Hmm.
focuses on one,
Yeah.
which is, you've got to be a super achiever, and
Your status.
my
Yeah.
kids are better than yours because wherever, right?
Right.
What's your thought on that? Is that, am I making any sense on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Is it okay if I
Yeah,
take that first?
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one of the other things we talk about in our class, Harry, is this whole comparing yourself to this fictitious world of social media. All right. You never see anyone post, my kid sucks. It's always, it's always, my kid just won the Nobel Peace Prize. Whoosh, right? And they're standing there with these pictures. Oh, I just got my new wheels. It's not even their car. They're standing in a car lot somewhere taking a picture of a car that's not even theirs. And what's happening, unfortunately, we're comparing ourselves to something that's not real, and it's making us feel bad about ourselves. And that impact is not just impacting, our generation. It's the younger generation too, especially on young women, right? It's like the Instagram and all these crazy filters and these unrealistic views of themselves. There's actually, if you read the APA, right, the American Psychological Association, the stuff that they put out, there's a real mental health issue going on now that's been created by these young girls. It's this whole body dysmorphia thing going on because they have these filters. It's not even them. These filters make them look like they have these shapes that aren't not human, right? So that's where we all have to stop, right? We have to stop comparing ourselves. And I can speak for myself, and to answer your question, I'll let Sal go. I tell my children, please learn from my mistakes. All I want you to do is I want you to chase your dreams, do what you love. The money will follow. And all I ask is you do your best. And that's all you can do. Right. And also, and one of the things my father always taught me, and from the age of 5, and has lived with me to today, and I teach it to my children, always be a person of your word, because no one can ever take that away from you. And always, always do the right thing. Because if you can put your head down on your pillow at night, then that is success. And just being a good person, right? So it's not about the money. It's not about all that. Believe it or not, the funny thing is when I finally started getting my head in the right order of what was a priority, my career actually started to take off, because I was so focused on the 1L. When you finally have the balance, you're just sharper, you're better, you're on top of it more, and you're enjoying life more. Key. And I think that's the important thing. I wasn't enjoying life, Harry. I wasn't. And I got to be honest with you, this makes me a little sad. My children would see the toll it took on me physically and mentally. And that breaks my heart that they used to see me so stressed. And for my children to say, Daddy, I don't want to be like that. Daddy, I'm sorry you were so stressed. And thank you so much for working so hard for us. That's horrible that they had to see me like that. So now, they see me with Sal, like, and we're making such an impact. And this is my calling. I am just like on all the time, like so happy. They are so happy for me. And I'm a better parent now because I'm in a whole different headspace. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And, that's why, so to answer your question, no, I don't push my children. And I got to be honest with you, my parents didn't push me. That was me. Yeah. That was my problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't even add to that. That's perfect. Same thing, Harry. Same thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a thing with society. And so you're speaking to students though, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The funny thing is,
oh, I'm sorry. You go.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on you. So Sal and I, when we developed this, we were thinking, corporate, kind of,
Yeah.
management, mid-tier executive management,
Leadership.
right? We're all, because leadership, geek over
Right.
here. So what we found out really, really quick, because we rolled it out to some of my students in NYU, they went berserk.
These are high school students.
Yeah, the high school academy, the college students that I teach, they just, oh my God, they were like, love this. This is amazing. So we're like, whoa. And then we saw that it speaks to all age groups. And it's not even just high school kids. One of the people that we interviewed for the book. So just so you know, in the book, it's, 5 chapters, all 5 L's. We put our 70 plus years combined, history in there and our recommendations. We have the science in there, but we've also interviewed very high level successful people and asked them how the L's got them through a difficult time in their life. And one of the people that we interviewed is the CEO of the Girl Scouts. And she looked at us and said, have you guys ever thought about writing a children's book? These young girls, these young future leaders need to hear this.
Yeah.
And we were like, whoa. And the answer is, now we're going to be, we got to get this one out first. But it speaks to all age groups.
Yeah,
it
knows no
Looking
boundaries.
at retiring or even, it's like, sorry,
oh no, what we say is the 5 L's knows no boundaries.
Yeah.
And in our classes and one of our clients, there are a lot of people who've been working for 35 and 40 years and they're about to retire. And they come up to us after the class and go, I'm going to retire. I was thinking about retiring, but now I'm going to retire because I'm going to use these 5 L's. I got to think about what's right for me. This is amazing, right?
Yeah.
It's just mind blowing. Love it.
Right. It's really making an impact. Yeah. I was curious about so it sounds like the students really grabbed hold of it. So, I mean, and that having that, in this day and age where the pressure is on
horrible
young people. I mean, I look at my kids who are in their early 20s for the most part.
Yeah.
And it's constant bombardment. And people ask me, well, what are your kids doing? It's like, well, it's not the Facebook story.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have that story to say how great my kids are. They're finding their way.
Right.
And I think that's true it's true with all of us in life, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, isn't it? I mean, now we're still, even with the 5 L's, I'm trying to think of an L, if it's longing, if it's whatever, where you're reaching out and saying, is this it? Should I be doing something else? Do I need to be adding or whatever? So what's your thought on that?
Well, let me tell you from my perspective, and Sal and I, one of the things we were just talking about is we're so blessed because while we've been on the road teaching, the people that we've met, it's just been incredible. And I'm not talking about the people that are attending our classes. I'm talking about the people that are, working the front desk at these hotels and working 3 jobs and people in the restaurants. And, the bottom line is we all, and you said it before, we're all holding ourselves to this fictitious media-driven definition of success. No one's life is that. No one's life. No one's got a perfect life. No one's got it all going on. And even when people try to portray themselves that way, if you get under the covers, like we see the tip of the iceberg, right? 80% of the iceberg is under the water, 80 to 90%. We're only seeing the surface. If we got under the surface and saw some of that 80 to 90%, it's a mess. All right. So let's just be honest. No one's life is perfect. No one has it all. And, you hear a lot of these people out there, this whole toxic positivity, oh, I got to go. Everything's great. Life isn't that way. Life is it's a journey. It's something you work at. And that's what we talk about with the 5 L's. There's going to be times you have to work at that balance. And we actually give folks tools to see where they're off in their balance. So they can assessment tools. So you can refocus because you always have to be working on it. You're never going to have all 5 L's in balance all the time because there's 3 things you can count on in life: death, taxes, and change, right? So change is constantly coming at you. Yeah. Life's going to get messy, but if you have something that can help you get through it, then that's huge. And that's why I wish I had this 30 years ago, but people just have to stop. They have to stop beating themselves up. They have to stop comparing themselves to, someone else that has more or they think they have more. They don't. There is something always under the covers that is not perfect. That is a mess. And if you start wrapping your head around that, you're going to be a happier person, because we're not all great and dandy. And, you know, like you said, Harry, my children are in their 20s. My son is 24 and he's got his first job. He's out there, and it's great to see him succeeding, because he's very, very high functioning special needs child, very high functioning though. And, you know, my children are the loves of my life. They're my universe, you know, especially being a single dad for so many years. They're just the center of everything for me. My daughter's about to graduate college, and she's going to take on the world, and she puts too much pressure on herself. I tell her that all the time. I'm like, Sarah, go enjoy, go party a little bit. What father tells their child, stop studying and go party a little bit? You know,
Me time.
you need your me time.
Right.
Yeah, I love it. So this is awesome. I mean, I'm totally buying into this 5L stuff, guys. Like you mentioned, it's like, where was this, you know, when we were a little bit younger, might have saved
Yeah,
some.
yeah.
But at least, you know, the great thing is about life, in my opinion, one of the many great things is that it's never too late, right? Whatever the relationship status is today doesn't mean it can't be better later on today, right? Just by applying, you know, some of this stuff on it, right? Just being able just to say, look, I need to turn the phone off, right? A little bit of leisure,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, just to recharge. You know, maybe I've got to look at the love in my life a little bit more, maybe not be so focused on work. And, you know, this whole thing about leave slash change, you know, I highly encourage it because
Yeah,
it makes you
yes.
better, right? I
it
mean,
does.
so yeah, this is great. And so we've been talking about this for a little bit here. I'm a believer. You got a book coming out soon. When is that happening? When will that be available for people?
That'll be out in May,
Okay.
very soon.
So right when this thing is probably getting launched, you'll be we'll time this for that. And then, so are you guys, where's your focus now? Are you working with schools, businesses? Who are you
Mhm.
really focused on these days?
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
We started on, you know, every vertical you can think of in the business arena, because Sal and I, you know, you're building a business, you want to use your network, right? So both of us have a lot of people that we know in different, you know, arenas, but predominantly business. And it was going very well. And I'm not saying that folks don't need it in every line, but, you know, when you talk about our focus, yes, we're focusing on students, but let's be honest, the last 2 years have been incredibly difficult for everybody. Thank you, COVID-19. Well, let's be honest, it's sucked. All right. But one day, Sal and I were sitting here and we were talking about it. And you know what we realized is, while the rest of us were at home in the very beginning of this and through most of it, wiping down our Cheerios boxes that we just picked up at the store because we didn't know if we could get COVID from our, you know, groceries, the frontliners, the healthcare professionals were out there every single day, desperately trying to save people's lives. Those individuals never, ever stopped. And Sal and I have friends and family that are in the healthcare industry. And so it's near and dear to our heart. So if we started to shift our focus there as well, and I have to be honest with you, while it means the world to us when we change anyone's life, when a healthcare professional comes up to you after one of your trainings, goes, oh my God, I needed this. You just changed my life. You can't put into words how that feels, because these are the people that were putting their lives on the line every single day, burnt out because they were short staffed, ripping PPE off each other, running around in hoods and masks and all this stuff, you know, those oxygen mask hoods because their N95s wouldn't fit. Watching, unfortunately, you know, hundreds of thousands of people die in front of them, having PTSD because of that. Right. So that's why we focused a lot of our energy there as well too now, because those are the folks that have really just taken it on the chin the most over the last 2 years.
All right, so I got to ask one question. What's the vision then? I know this is not a short answer, but what's the vision? Because I mean, you just brought it up that this can be practical for everybody. So I got to hear what the vision is.
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
For me, and Mike, jump in anytime. The vision is that if we can just, at any point in time, help to change someone's life for the better, then that's the vision. I mean, that's, we both have had careers and long lasting careers. And, I repurposed myself.
Yep.
I thought I was finished. And now I'm having more fun now. And I'm flying up from Florida every single week to do this. And I love it. The vision is let's keep doing this. Let's do this so we can impact people's lives for the better, from young people to the retired people, whatever it might be. I mean, I think that's the vision.
Yeah.
Change people's lives, help them.
As many people as we can. That's, and thank you for having us on your podcast, because we just really want to get the message out there, because we've seen it impact so many lives just in the short time that we've been doing it. So for me, our as Sal said, it's just changing people's lives, and as many as we can. And that's why we wanted to write the book, because obviously, while we're trying to get it out there globally, you can only do so many at a time. So having the book get out there and have the message get out there, because the book is, predominantly a lot of what we talk about. But, it's not an in-person, experience, but it's getting that message. And hopefully, because I have to tell you, we have people come up to us every single time. When is your book coming out? I've got to give this to my daughter. I've got to give this to my son. I've got to give this to my brother or sister or my parents. And, for us, it's really getting it in as many hands, getting the message out there to as many people as possible.
And every chapter, Harry, starts with a quote. We whether it's love, laughter, labor, leisure, leave. The leave quote that we start the chapter leave off with is from Dr. Seuss, right? And it's, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. Dr. Seuss. And that's what we try to end our sessions with, some good thought like that. And it's all good.
That's great. Yeah. Dr. Seuss, I'm telling you, brilliance. I'm not joking. I mean, there's brilliance in such simplicity. So,
right.
You guys are awesome. I'm a huge fan. Give a shout out to our main man, Dominic Damaski of Motivation.
Yeah, Dom.
Who brought us together.
He is the man.
That guy. And I'm just happy to be part of watching you guys take on the world and make it a better place. I'm all about that. We all can make our impact. And just listening to you and the passion and the brilliance behind the 5 L's, I'm stoked and love to support it in any way I can. So I'm a huge fan. And so one last thing, where are people looking for you guys? If they want to find more of Mike and Sal, where do they find you?
Absolutely. So www.unparalleledperformance.com. So it'll take you to all our social media, because that's our main website, but we're on every social media you can think of, from LinkedIn to Facebook to Instagram.
And Harry, what we do is regarding social media, every Wednesday we post a leadership, 5 L's leadership in action. And it takes one of the 5 L's we pick, and it's a very bullet point thing to think about with respect to leadership. On Fridays, we post a 5 L's moment, and it's any one of the L's to get you into the weekend. On Mondays, it's really cool. And we wish we had it when we were doing this thing years ago. It's a 5 L's weekly to-do list, and it's each of the L's and what you should think about for that week to get you through the week regarding the L's. Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And when the book comes out, people be able to get it on our website, but also Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, it's great. All right. Awesome, guys. Much success to you. This is amazing. Looking forward to the growth of the 5 L message throughout the world.
I love it.
Millions.
You have to be our announcer, Harry. You have to kick us off at all our events. I love it.
All right. Love it. Yeah, selling with dignity is right up there.
Sell with dignity, baby.
All right, Harry.
If you're just listening, Sal just put up the book, Selling with Dignity.
Yeah.
pales in insignificance next to the giant sign of 5 L's. But that's okay, Sal.
It's all
Love
right.
you anyway, man.
All right, Harry.
Man, sales is tough. I'm just not cut out to be a salesperson. Have you ever felt that way? Selling doesn't need to be so difficult. My name is Harry Spate. I'm here to serve and to help you succeed. Join me as we discuss sales made easy.